فإن تزاحم عدد المصالح يقدم الأعلى من المصالح، وضده تزاحم المفاسد يرتكب الأدنى من المفاسد.
نعم، المصالح المقصود بها أوامر الشريعة، والمقصود من هذه القاعدة أنه إذا تزاحم عند الإنسان تحصيل أو فعل الأوامر، بمعنى أنه لا يستطيع أن يجمع بينها، وإنما لابد أن يفعل أحد هذه الأوامر، فإنه يفعل الأعلى مرتبة ويترك الأدنى مرتبة.
Here, the Shaykh, he talked about what happens when you have multiple masalih, and the meaning of masalih here are things you have been commanded to do in the Sharia. So here a person has multiple things they have been commanded to do, and they can't do all of them. They have to choose to do one of them. So here a person has more than one thing that they've been commanded, more than one amr they've been commanded to do, and they can only do one of them. So in this case, the person does the one that is the highest in status, the most important of them.
وهذا يندرج تحته أقسام. القسم الأول أن تتعارض الواجبات، فنقدم آكد الواجبين. مثال ذلك: تعارض عند الإنسان طاعة الله وطاعة الوالد. طاعة الله واجبة وطاعة الوالد واجبة، فإذا تعارضتا قدم آكد الواجبين وهو طاعة الله، فيقدم الإنسان طاعة الله على طاعة الوالد.
And this issue of having things that where you have to choose only one of the things that you're supposed to do, you've got more than one thing but you can't do both of them, you have to choose one. The Shaykh said the first, if we break it into categories, the first category is when you have a clash of wajibat. You have a clash of obligations. Both of the two things are wajib. Both of the two things you have to do. So you have to choose one of them, and the Shaykh, he said, you choose the one that is the most emphasized or the greater obligation, the stronger obligation. So for example, if a person has to choose between obeying Allah or obeying his parents, obeying Allah is an obligation and obeying your parents is an obligation, and a person has to choose one of those two because there's a contradiction between them, i.e. the parent has asked you to do something which is disobeying Allah, so you have to choose. You can't obey both. So in this case, we put obeying Allah before obeying the parents because obeying Allah is a stronger obligation than obeying the parents.
مثال آخر: تعارض عنده أداء الدين الذي عليه والذهاب للحج، ليس عنده إلا مال يكفي أحدهما، فيقدم أداء الدين على الحج لأن أداء الدين آكد في الواجبية.
Another example, a person has to choose between paying a debt and going to Hajj. They can only do one of the two. So here they give precedence to paying the debt because it is a greater obligation than the obligation of going to Hajj.
القسم الثاني: إذا تعارض الواجب والمستحب فلا شك أنه يقدم الواجب.
The second category, if there is a contradiction or there is a clash between the obligation and the voluntary deed, Shaykh said there is no doubt that we put the obligation first.
مثال ذلك: عنده مال يريد أن يتصدق وعليه زكاة. الزكاة واجبة والصدقة مستحبة، فيجعل هذا المال للزكاة.
For example, a person has some wealth that they want to give in charity, but they also have to give zakah. There is no doubt that the person puts forward the zakah or they use that money for the zakah, and they don't use that money for sadaqah because the zakah is an obligation and the sadaqah is something voluntary.
القسم الثالث إذا تعارض عنده مستحبان فيقدم أفضل المستحبين. وأسباب التفضيل في المستحبات كثيرة، من ذلك أن يكون المستحب أحدهما متعد والآخر غير متعدي، فيقدم المتعدي على غير المتعدي. مثال المتعدي تعليم الناس، ومثال غير المتعدي الصلاة. فلو تعارض عنده أن يصلي أو يعلم فيقدم التعليم على الصلاة.
The third category is when you have a clash between two voluntary deeds, and here you give precedence to the one that is better of the two. And the Shaykh said the way that we judge which is better, there are many different ways. So he said one of the ways that we judge what is better is an action which conveys benefit to others versus an action which is only for yourself. So for example, the Shaykh said, when you teach people, this conveys benefit to other people. Your benefit is not limited to you when you teach people. It benefits you and it benefits other people. Whereas a prayer only benefits yourself. Remember, we're talking about the voluntary deeds here. We're not talking about obligatory. So the Shaykh said if you have a clash between teaching people or performing a voluntary prayer, then you give preference to teaching people because it conveys benefit to others rather than just being limited to yourself.
ثم ذكر الشيخ رحمه الله في البيت الذي بعده قاعدة أخرى، وهي إذا تعارض عنده المحرمات واحتاج إلى أن يفعل أحدها ضرورة فإنه يقدم المحرم الأخف ويترك المحرم الأكبر.
The Shaykh said the next line of poetry, and that's line number 14, mentions another principle, and that is if a person is forced by necessity to do something which is haram, then the person chooses the haram which is less severe or less in severity over the one which is greater. And the Shaykh emphasized here, this is darura, necessity. A person is forced by necessity to do one of two things, both of which are haram, then the person chooses the one which is lesser in severity.
مثال ذلك لو أنه أكل طعاما فغص حتى أنه قد يموت، وعنده أو ليس عنده إلا الخمر، فهو إما أن يترك نفسه حتى يموت وإما أن يشرب من هذا الخمر. تعارض عنده هذان الأمران فيقدم الأخف هو شرب الخمر، فيشرب الخمر حتى يدفع هذه الغصة. معروف الغصة؟
نعم. So the Shaykh gave an example. If a person were to eat some food and it becomes lodged in the throat, and the only thing they have available to stop them from choking is alcohol. So in this case, the person drinks the alcohol because this is the lesser of the two.
إذن هذه قاعدتان، إذا تزاحم عنده الأوامر فإنه يقدم أعلى هذه الأوامر، وإذا تزاحم عنده دفع المفاسد فإنه يرتكب أخف المفاسد.
So these are two principles. If a person has multiple things that they have to do, they choose the greater. If there's a clash between two things that they have to do, they choose the greater or the better of the two. And if there is a clash between two things which are negative or two things which are haram or negative consequences, then the person chooses the least in severity of those consequences.
نعم.
قال رحمه الله: ومن قواعد الشريعة التيسير في كل أمر نابه تعسير.
هذه قاعدة أيضا من القواعد الخمسة الكبرى في الشريعة، وهي المشقة تجلب التيسير. والمراد بهذه القاعدة أن الأمر كلما ضاق اتسع، فكلما شق على الناس الأمر فإن الشريعة تأتي بما يوسع عليهم هذا الأمر.
The Shaykh said this next principle that we have, and we're on to line number 15, is one of the 5 great principles of the Sharia. And that is that hardship brings about ease. And the Shaykh said the meaning of this hardship brings about ease is that every time a situation gets harder, the Sharia provides more opportunity or more facility to make it easy for or more leniency in making it easy for a person.
والمشقة تنقسم إلى قسمين. القسم الأول مشقة معتادة، وهذه تأتي الشريعة بمثلها، فالله عز وجل أمر بالصلاة والصلاة فيها نوع مشقة، وأمر بالزكاة والزكاة فيه نوع مشقة، وأمر ببر الوالد إذا كان يعامله بالمعاملة السيئة وهذا فيه نوع مشقة، كل ذلك تأتي به الشريعة.
So the Shaykh said that hardship can be divided into 2 types, and the first type is a hardship which is, and I'll give you the examples and then we try and find the right word for it. The Shaykh said, for example, the prayer has a degree of hardship in it, and yet we have been commanded, the Sharia commands us to pray. Likewise, zakah has a degree of hardship in it, and we have been commanded to do it. And likewise, being good to your parents has a degree of hardship in it. If they make it difficult for you to be good to them, there is a degree of hardship in it, and that is something that we've been commanded to do. So this is what the Shaykh called mu'tada, and it's something that it's kind of natural. It's something that's naturally present hardship that we have to endure and put up with.
القسم الثاني مشقة خارجة عن العادة، وهذه لا تأتي الشريعة بمثلها، لأن الله قال يريد بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر.
The second is the type of hardship which is not natural. It's not normal, the normal hardship. The first one was the normal or the natural hardship. The second one is the one that goes, it's beyond what is natural and normal. And the Sharia doesn't bring this kind of hardship for you. And that's because Allah said, and the Shaykh, he recited the ayah, Allah wants ease for you and He doesn't want difficulty for you.
فالله عز وجل لا يأمر بإخراج جميع الأموال في الزكاة، ولا يأمرك أن تصلي في كل الوقت، لأن هذه أمور خارجة عن العادة.
So for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not require you to give all of your wealth in charity, nor does He require you to pray all of the time, because these 2 things, giving all of your wealth in charity and praying all of the time, they're outside of what the norm is. They're outside of the norms of things which are normally difficult. They go beyond that.
طيب متى تكون المشقة تجلب التيسير؟ المشقة تنقسم إلى 3 أقسام. مشقة خفيفة، هذه لا تجلب التيسير لأنها خفيفة مستطاعة.
So the Shaykh said, when is it the case that hardship brings about ease? So he now is going to divide hardship in a different way into 3 categories. The first is when the hardship is minimal. It's khafifa, it's light, it's fairly minimal, and you can do it. So this doesn't bring about ease in the sense that when we say bring about ease, it doesn't bring about a leniency or something that is something where the rules change to make it easy for you, if it in the first place was minimal and doable.
مثال ذلك إذا كان الإنسان مريض مرضا يسيرا كإصبعه مكسور مثلا، فهذا لا يبيح له الفطر في رمضان.
So for example, if a person is sick in a small way, for example, the Shaykh said maybe he had broken his finger and it's wrapped up in a bandage or something, and that person, he's not allowed to break his fast in Ramadan. He has something very, very small happened to him. He's not allowed to break his fast because of that in Ramadan.
كذلك لو أراد أن يصلي ويشعر بالتعب اليسير فليس له أن يصلي قاعدا في صلاة الفريضة.
And likewise, a person who he wants to pray and he feels a little tired, he's not allowed to pray sitting down in an obligatory prayer. He's not allowed to do an obligatory prayer sitting down because he feels a little bit tired.
القسم الثاني المشقة التي تخرج عن طاقة الإنسان كما تقدم بيانه، هذا لا تأتي الشريعة بمثله كما ذكرنا.
The second category is the category of difficulty which a person is not able to do. It goes beyond the person's ability. And the Shaykh said the Sharia doesn't ask you to do these things.
القسم الثالث المشقة التي بين هاتين المشقتين، وهي المشقة التي يشعر الإنسان معها بالحرج والتعب، فهذا الذي تأتي الشريعة معه بالتيسير والتسهيل.
The third kind is the one that's between the two. So it's not the very, very small one, and it's not the one that is so great that in the first place the Sharia doesn't ask you to do it. But it's between the two. A person finds a considerable amount of difficulty in doing it. This is the one which the Sharia brought about ease and leniency in.
أما عن أسباب التيسير في الشريعة فهي أسباب كثيرة، الأسباب التي تؤدي إلى التسهيل والتيسير. السبب الأول الخطأ والنسيان.
The Shaykh said, as for the reasons or the causes which would bring about this ease or make something easy, the first one he said is making a mistake and forgetfulness. So doing something out of error or out of forgetfulness.
فالإنسان إذا فعل الخطأ نسيانا أو خطأ فالله عز وجل لا يحاسبه على ذلك، وهذا من التيسير.
So for example, if a person does something out of an error or out of forgetfulness, Allah Azza wa Jal will not take them to account for that, and that's a kind of ease.
أما هذا ما يتعلق بالحكم التكليفي، أي في حكمه من حيث التحريم والإثم. أما من حيث الضمان، هل عليه أن يعيد أو لا يعيد، فهذا ينقسم إلى قسمين. القسم الأول في حقوق الله عز وجل، والقسم الثاني في حقوق الآدميين. الله.
He said the next thing relates to the ruling of this, and the Shaykh he distinguished between this and between the issue of al-daman, whether the person has to actually repeat this action or not. And he said this is broken into two types: the rights of Allah and the rights of mankind.
أما بالنسبة لحقوق الله تبارك وتعالى فهذه أيضا تنقسم إلى قسمين. القسم الأول في باب الأوامر، فالإنسان إذا ترك أمرا من الأوامر نسيانا فيجب عليه أن يأتي به مرة أخرى. مثال ذلك لو أن الإنسان نسي أن يصوم يوما من رمضان، فالله عز وجل لا يعاقبه على ذلك كما تقدم، ولكن يجب عليه أن يأتي بهذا اليوم ويصوم.
So the Shaykh said, as it relates to the rights of Allah, then the rights of Allah also divided into two types. So we're talking about, as the Shaykh was speaking about this issue of Daman, about whether you have to, do you need to do it? Do you need to bring that action again that you forgot about or you made a mistake in? Do you need to do it again or not? So the Shaykh said, we said it broke into two types, the rights of Allah and the rights of people. So the Shaykh said, as for the rights of Allah, it's broken into two types. The first one is the rights of Allah as it relates to commands you have to do. And these, the Shaykh said, you have to do them again. So for example, somebody forgot that they had to fast a particular day of Ramadan, or out of an error they didn't fast a particular day of Ramadan. This person has to fast that day they have to make up that day from another day.
مثال آخر لو أن الإنسان صلى ونسي أن يتوضأ ثم تذكر بأنه لم يتوضأ فيجب عليه أن يعيد الصلاة لأن هذا من باب الأوامر.
Likewise, another example, if a person prayed and then remembered that they hadn't made wudu, that person has to pray again. They have to go and pray a complete new prayer again, because this is something that Allah commanded them to do and they forgot about.
القسم الثاني إذا كان في باب النواهي أو المحظورات والممنوعات فهذا لا يؤاخذ به ويسقط. مثال ذلك لو أن الإنسان أكل في رمضان ناسيا فصيامه صحيح.
The second issue as it relates to the rights of Allah and whether you have to perform that action another time is when it relates to prohibitions. So the Shaykh said, as it relates to prohibitions, this person is not taken to account for them and they don't have to do anything about it. So for example, he gave the example of a person who eats in Ramadan forgetfully. Eating in Ramadan is prohibited, it's not allowed. And he eats in Ramadan out of forgetfulness. This person doesn't need to do anything. They don't need to repeat it again or to repeat the day again. No.
مثال آخر لو أنه تكلم وهو يصلي خطأ أو نسيانا أنه في الصلاة فهذا أيضا صلاته صحيحة ولا يعيد.
Another example, a person who is, while they are praying, they speak out of forgetfulness. They say something while they are praying. This person, again, speaking in the prayer is something prohibited. So when they speak during the prayer and they did so forgetfully, their prayer is valid and correct and they don't need to repeat their prayer.
مثال آخر أيضا لو أن الإنسان قال والله لا أدخل دار فلان ثم دخلها ناسيا فهذا لا يحنث يعني لا يجب عليه كفارة.
Another example, if a person said, by Allah, I'm not going to enter this person's house. And they made a vow or an oath that by Allah, I'm not going to enter this person's house. And then they go into that person's house out of forgetfulness. This person is not considered to have broken their vow or their oath.
القسم الثاني فيما يتعلق بحقوق الآدميين فهنا يجب الضمان مطلقا. مثال ذلك لو أنه أخذ مال شخص وأتلفه خطأ فيجب عليه أن يضمن هذا المال.
The second category, and now we've gone back to this issue of dhaman, whether you have to make up for it. The second category we said is the rights of people, the rights of mankind. And in this, the Shaykh said you always have to make it up. So he said, for example, if a person took someone's wealth and accidentally destroyed it in some way or ruined it in some way, this person has to replace that wealth that they took without any exceptions.
مثال آخر لو أن الإنسان ألقى حجرا فخطأ كسر نافذة بيت يجب عليه أن يصلحها.
So another example, if somebody was playing around and threw a stone, just out of a mistake, they threw a stone and they broke someone's window. They have to fix that window in that person's house, even though they didn't deliberately throw the stone at it.
السبب الثاني من أسباب التيسير الجهل. فالإنسان إذا كان يجهل شيئا فإن الله عز وجل يعذره، وحكم الجهل هو حكم النسيان والخطأ. فالله عز وجل لا يعاقب الإنسان إذا كان جاهلا.
The second thing which causes or which brings about, one of the causes that brings about ease in the Sharia is ignorance. And the Shaykh, he said, ignorance has the same ruling as the error and the forgetfulness that we spoke about in the first cause that we said. The first cause that brings about ease is making an error and forgetfulness. Likewise, ignorance is also included in that. So if a person is ignorant, then Allah lightens the burden for them, as we exactly as the Shaykh mentioned in his first principle regarding error and forgetfulness.
السبب الثالث من أسباب التيسير الإكراه. الإكراه بمعنى أن يكرهك شخص على أن تفعل شيئا ما.
The third thing which brings about ease or cause, one of the causes that brings about ease, is being compelled or being forced to do something. So if somebody forces you or compels you to do something, then this is one of the things that brings about ease.
والإكراه كذلك ينقسم إلى الأقسام التي تقدم ذكرها في الخطأ والنسيان.
And likewise, when you're compelled or forced to do something, the same thing that the Shaykh mentioned in making an error and forgetfulness, is it a right of Allah, is it the right of the person, is it a command, is it a prohibition, the same thing applies when you have been forced to do something and you did something you shouldn't have because you were forced. Likewise, as the Shaykh mentioned, the same thing about is it the right of Allah, then is it a command, is it a prohibition, it all applies just as the Shaykh mentioned earlier.
يعني لو أن الإنسان أكره على أنه يصلي بدون وضوء فالصلاة غير صحيحة، ولو أنه أكره على أن يتكلم وهو يصلي فصلاته صحيحة، لأن المثال الأول فيما يتعلق بالأوامر والمثال الثاني فيما يتعلق بالنواهي.
So for example, if a person was compelled or forced to pray without wudu, then this person's prayer is not in itself valid. Just like we mentioned in forgetfulness, if a person forgot to make wudu, then they have to repeat the prayer at a later date. Likewise, if they were forced to pray without wudu, they have to repeat the prayer at a later date. As for the person who is forced to speak during the prayer, then that person does not have to repeat the prayer, just like if they forgot about speaking during the prayer, they don't need to repeat the prayer.
وأما فيما يتعلق بحقوق الآدميين فالضمان يكون على المكره وليس على المكره. مثال ذلك لو أن رجلا قال لآخر اسرق مال فلان وإلا أقتلك، فذهب وسرق مال فلان، فالذي عليه الضمان هو الذي أكره.
So the Shaykh said, as for the rights of mankind when it comes to being forced to do things, the replacing that wealth or replacing that right, bringing that right back to the person is the responsibility of the one who forced a person, not the one who was being forced. So the Shaykh gave an example. If somebody said to you that go and steal this person's wealth or I'm going to kill you. Go and steal this person's wealth or I'm going to kill you. It is that person, the one who forced, the one who threatened, that one who threatened, they are the one that needs to replace the wealth, not the one who was threatened, not the one that was being threatened, the one who was giving out the threat, making the threat. That's the one that has to replace the wealth.
هذا هو الأصل، أن الضمان في الإكراه يكون على المكره إلا في القتل. فلو أن رجلا قال لآخر اقتل فلان وإلا قتلتك، فذهب وقتل فلان، فالضمان يكون على المكره والمكره، فالحكم يكون على المكره ويكون أيضا على المكره.
He said this is the basic principle, that the responsibility for making up for taking the right of someone, it goes on the one who is making the threat, not the one who is being threatened. However, there is an exception to this, and that is in the matter of killing. So if a person said to another, go and kill this man, otherwise I'll kill you. Go and kill this man, otherwise I will kill you. In this case, the responsibility is on both of them. They are both responsible. The one who made the threat and the one who was threatened, both of them have the responsibility to make up for that killing.
السبب الخامس من أسباب التيسير والتسهيل في الشريعة المرض. فالإنسان إذا أصابه المرض كان ذلك سببا من أسباب التيسير، فيفطر في رمضان ويجمع بين الصلاتين إذا احتاج إلى الجمع.
The fifth cause of bringing about ease, or bringing about, when I say bringing about ease, I want the brothers to understand, in case the translation might not be understood, we mean probably to say bringing about leniency is a better word. And being allowed to do things you would not normally be allowed to do. And bringing about, when we say bringing about ease, probably the better word might be for me to say bring about leniency. There is sickness, the Shaykh mentioned. So the sick person, for example, joins between the prayer. The sick person is allowed to miss a day of fasting in Ramadan, and so on. So sickness is another cause for bringing about leniency or bringing about ease.
أيضا من أسباب التيسير السفر، فالإنسان إذا سافر جاز له أن يفطر وجاز له أن يجمع بين الصلاتين.
From the causes of leniency is also traveling. So a person who is traveling is allowed to break their fast and they're allowed to join between two prayers.
السبب السابع الجنون، فالجنون سبب من أسباب التيسير، والجنون ينقسم تحته أقسام. القسم الأول ما يتعلق بالعبادات البدنية، فالمجنون لا يطالب بالعبادات البدنية كالصلاة ونحوها.
The Shaykh said the seventh thing which brings about ease or brings about leniency is insanity. And Shaykh said insanity can be divided into various different categories, and among them are the issues relating to physical acts of worship. So the insane person is not required to perform physical acts of worship.
القسم الثاني العبادات المالية كالزكاة والنفقات، فهذه تجب في مال المجنون، فالمجنون إذا ورث مالا ثم حال عليه الحول يجب علينا أن نخرج من ماله الزكاة.
The second category are the acts of worship which are financial. So the zakah, for example, and the Shaykh said this is obligatory to be taken from the wealth of the insane person. So for example, if the insane person was to inherit some wealth and then a year goes by and that wealth is above the minimum amount for zakah, then we have to take the zakah from the wealth of that insane person and give it out. That is, those are the acts of worship which are financially or based upon financially based. No.
أيضا حقوق المالية المتعلقة بالمجنون هذه تجب عليه وعلى وليه أن يخرجها، مثال ذلك النفقات كما ذكرنا، وقيم المتلفات. لو أن المجنون أتلف شيئا يجب على وليه أن يصلح هذا الإتلاف من مال المجنون.
Likewise, the financial rights that are due upon the insane person. So for example, the insane person has family that he has to take care of, that he's obliged to take care of. What the Shaykh, he called it a nafaqat, like spending upon your family members, like to spend upon your children or to spend upon whoever it may be. Then he said it is obligatory for the one who is the guardian of that insane person to take from his wealth to spend upon those people that he has to spend upon. And likewise, if the insane person were to destroy something, for example, to ruin someone's wealth or to break something or to ruin something, destroy something, then again his guardian has to take the value of that item out of his wealth and to pay for it to be fixed or to be replaced.
القسم الذي بعده أيضا ما يتعلق بعقود المجنون أو فسوخه كالبيع والشراء لا يصح من المجنون. النكاح لا يصح من المجنون بحيث هو الذي يعقد عقد النكاح. كذلك الفسوخ كالإقالة في البيع لا تصح من المجنون. الطلاق لا يصح من المجنون، وهكذا.
Likewise, entering into or cancelling contracts is not valid from someone who is insane. So for example, a person who is insane cannot trade, can't buy and sell. And a person who is insane cannot enter into a contract of marriage. And likewise, cancelling out those contracts. So cancelling a sale or annulling a sale. And likewise, divorce. All of these things are invalid from one who is insane.
السبب الثامن من أسباب التخفيف الأنوثة، فالمرأة تسقط عنها بعض التكاليف التي وجبت على الرجال.
The eighth cause of bringing about ease is femininity. Being a lady, being female, that there are certain things that a lady doesn't have to do that men have to do.
مثال ذلك المرأة لا تجب عليها صلاة الجماعة ولا صلاة الجمعة، ولا يجب عليها الجهاد في سبيل الله وهذه أمور تجب على الرجال.
So for example, a lady doesn't have to pray in the congregation, and she doesn't have to come to Jumu'ah, and she doesn't have to perform jihad. These are all things that are obligatory upon men.
وعندنا هنا قاعدة وهي أن الأصل تساوي الرجال والنساء في الأحكام. الأصل تساوي الرجال والنساء في الأحكام إلا ما دل الدليل على التفريق بينهما.
And the Shaykh said here we have a principle, that the principle as it relates to men and women is that men and women are equal in rulings, meaning all the rulings that apply to men apply to women unless there is a specific evidence to make an exception in one regard. Otherwise, the principle, the Shaykh said, the asl, the principle is that the men and women as it in relation to Islamic rulings are equal unless there is an evidence.
السبب التاسع من أسباب التخفيف الصغر، فالصغير يخفف عنه في الأحكام ويندرج تحت ذلك أقسام. القسم الأول العبادات البدنية، فالعبادات البدنية لا تجب على الصغير كالصلاة والصيام ونحو ذلك.
So the Shaykh said the ninth thing which brings about leniency or ease is someone being young, being a child, childhood maybe, that's the right word. So the Shaykh said again there are many different categories of this, and the first category are the acts of worship which are physical acts of worship. So the young person, the one who is a child, is not required to pray and not required to fast.
وإذا كان مميزا فإنها تصح منه، فالصبي إذا كان مميزا يصح منه أو تصح منه الصلاة ويصح منه الصيام.
And as for if he is mumayyiz, do you remember we Shaykh spoke about tamyiz before, that the child understands what is being said to them and is able to answer, then the fasting and prayer is valid from them, it's accepted from them, but they don't have to do it.
القسم الثاني العبادات المالية المحضة كالزكاة، فهذه تجب في مال الصبي الصغير.
شيخ هنا محضة يقابل ماذا يا شيخ؟
يعني ليست مركبة مثل الحج، مركب من عبادة مالية.
الشيخ he said the second category is, or the second category relating to the children or the young people, are acts of worship that are purely financial. And I asked the Shaykh to clarify, what do you mean by purely financial? He said those that are not a mix of physical and financial, like Hajj, which is a mix of something physical and something financial. But here's something which is purely financial, like zakah.
القسم الثالث الحقوق المالية كقيم المتلفات. الصبي لو أتلف شيئا يجب عليه في ماله إصلاحه وضمانه. إذا اعتدى على إنسان فإن اعتداء هذا يجب عليه أرش جنايته وهكذا.
So the Shaykh said, for example, he said the third category are the issues which are financial, relating to the things which a child might have ruined or destroyed or in some way damaged. So the child is obliged to make those up from his own wealth. Likewise, if a child was to attack somebody and cause some physical damage, they would have to take care of the repatriation or the making up for that, the financial payment which makes up for sort of what we would call compensation for the physical damage that the child did.
القسم الرابع عقود الصبي وفسوخ الصبي. الأصل أنها لا تصح، فشراء الصبي وبيعه وعقد نكاحه وطلاقه الأصل أنه لا يصح.
The Shaykh said the fourth category are the contracts which a child enters into or annulling a contract, cancelling a contract. So he said the original principle, like the basic principle, is that these are not valid. So the marriage, divorce, entering into a contract, cancelling a contract, those things are not valid. The normal situation is that those things are not valid from a child.
يستثنى من ذلك أمور. الأمر الأول الأمور اليسيرة عرفا، فيصح البيع والشراء من الصبي.
The Shaykh said there are a number of exceptions to this. The first are the things which are considered by urf, and urf we mean what the people everybody here considers to be something minor. So for example, this is a buying and selling something which is considered here to be, it's not a big deal, it's something very small. This is valid from a child.
لكن لو أنه ورث بيتا فجاء أحد يريد أن يشتري منه هذا البيت، فقال هذا الصبي بعتك هذا البيت، هذا البيع لا يصح.
On the other hand, if for example a child inherits a house and he says to somebody that I'll sell this house to you, this is not valid, because this is not something considered to be a small transaction like going to the shop to buy something. This is a big thing, and it's not valid from the child to say I've sold this house to you.
الأمر الثاني الذي يستثنى إذا كان المقصود اختباره حتى يعطى ماله، فيجوز أن فيصح البيع والشراء.
The second thing which makes it valid, the second exception to the fact that children can't buy and sell, is if the child is being tested prior to being given their wealth. So maybe I'll explain for just a moment that there is a situation in which a child, when they reach a certain age, the person responsible for them begins to test them, what the Shaykh called ikhtibar. He begins to give them a test to see if they are mature enough to handle their own wealth. At this point it is valid.
الأمر الثالث الذي يستثنى إذا كان مصلحة محضة للصبي، مثال ذلك قبول الهبة، أعطاه شخص هبة من المال يجوز له أن يأخذه ويقبله.
The third exception is if it is of pure benefit to the child. So it's an absolutely pure benefit. So for example, someone gives the child a gift. Now again, to explain that we probably don't, in English we might not consider this to be buying and selling, but in Islam any exchange of benefit is a trade. So if somebody gives a child a gift, there's no harm for that child whatsoever. The Shaykh said it is maslaha mahda. It's of pure benefit to the child. This them receiving a gift, they can accept that gift.
نعم.